Hey guys, Jay Hoyt here. Before we get into today's video, I just wanted to say a quick thank you guys for all of the support on the channel. The new subscribers, the people that are liking, commenting, and most importantly, watching our videos. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to all those new people. Enjoy the video. What's going on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you today. Welcome back to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. We are back here on Skid Row, which arguably is probably my favorite map in this entire game right now. Very few ones actually, are good in my opinion, but this one, might be my favorite, might be the only one I'm actually good at. But either way, we're back here with a good gameplay for you in the background on ranked play once again. We got some hard point for you. And we are back here on the Monday after the CDL Major #1 hosted by the Boston Breach. And oh boy, was it a pretty good tournament overall. I was able to watch some of these matchups other than just OpTic, which was great. Obviously, I like to keep tabs on some of these other teams, especially ones that have old OpTic players or players that I've seen otherwise more than just OpTic. So. But getting right into it, though, as far as the bracket goes, I feel like there's always like one set of games that just never go away, that just screws up our entire bracket. But of course, putting aside the biased, is that a word? I'm not even sure. Putting aside the bias, though, going into the bracket, if you look at the top 8 going into Major #1 being FaZe, the LA Gorillas, Miami Heretics, OpTic Texas, Toronto Ultra, Seattle Surge, New York Subliners, and Minnesota Rocker. Within the losers bracket being the LA Thieves, the Vegas Legion, the Boston Breach, and the Carolina Royal Ravens. I mean, it's, again, so hard to kind of see, who is good, who's not good, who needs work, because it's the first event of the year. So after this event, I would assume that all of the changes and updates and Season 1 and everything else will go into effect as far as the pro scene goes, because they were playing on an old patch for the Major, because if they didn't do that, then a lot of the hard points would be different, attachments would be different, the guns themselves would be different, and they wouldn't be playing on the newest stuff. So this is where, and this will never make sense to me, but why does Call of Duty do this right before an event every single time? Like, if you're trying to take this seriously, don't release a big patch like this or a big update like this right before an event. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Do it before. That'd be great. But either way, going into the bracket, let's just go through it kind of quick. I mean, Atlanta FaZe handle business 3-0, moving them on to the second round. LAG drops down. OpTic gets the revenge on Miami Heretics, get in the 3-0 fashion. Online is definitely a different beast than on LAN. Toronto Ultra handled business as well, beating Surge 3-0, which isn't really surprising. I mean, Surge definitely has the talent, but just haven't put it all together yet. New York Subliners with a surprising loss to the Minnesota Rocker. They got 3-0'd. Rocker then move on to the second round. So FaZe, OpTic, Ultra, Rocker in the winners bracket semi-quarterfinals, I think it is, or semifinals, whatever the name of it is. But dropping down to the losers bracket, as you guys see on your screen, or the elimination bracket. The LA Gorillas did end up winning that one versus the LA Thieves 3-1. Thieves, again, not the same team as they were the last few years, which was a top team. Now they're kind of, don't want to say a rebuilder, but they don't really have the team there anymore. Then you have Miami Heretics end up losing in the 3-0 fashion versus the Vegas Legion, which might be arguably the shock of the tournament. Maybe it was the Subliners loss, but Heretics losing like that, I mean, I don't want to say how good they've been, because they did have a relatively easier competition in the first. I mean, they played OpTic, they played one of their top team, which they both end up, or they beat OpTic, but they lost to the other team. So they were doing pretty well in the Major 1 qualifiers, but then beating OpTic was a big step. Like, obviously with that team on paper and being considered to be in the top 4, then you're kind of thinking, okay, you might be a team that shouldn't be messed with too much because they have that talent. But they end up losing. They get double first rounded. They didn't win a map in the entire tournament. But Miami Heretics are out. Thieves are out. On to the next matchup, Seattle Surge dropping down from the winner's bracket. They go game 5 versus the Boston Breach. Breach out of their home tournament in the first round. The New York Subliers end up losing again. Our defending world champs out of the tournament. Carolina Royal Ravens taking them out 3-1, moving them on. Then we have our second round featuring Atlanta FaZe versus OpTic Texas. This one was a heartbreaker. 3-2 game 5 came down to the Search and Destroy. Just couldn't end up doing it in the very end, though, but it was a pretty good matchup, right? FaZe OpTic, always a classic, regardless of what it is. Obviously, online, a little bit of a different story, but at least on LAN, though, these two teams are just incredible. I mean, just GG's over there, the FaZe boys. Obviously, that team is insane. The core 3 that's been there pretty much since the start of the CDL, being Simba, Beezy, and Celium. Of course, they've rotated through that 4th player a little bit, but obviously, they're always a good matchup. So, kudos to them. But OpTic Texas moved down, dropped down, and will face off later in the elimination bracket. But second round, or second matchup, I should say, of that winner's second round, Toronto Ultra versus Minnesota Rocker. Again, Ultra handled that pretty easily, 3-0 fashion. They move on to face off against FaZe in the winner's finals. But down in the elimination bracket, more teams have to go home. LA Guerrillas continue their run with the Game 5 victory versus the Vegas Legion. So Vegas does go home after after winning the first round versus Heretics. Pretty big win there, but they do fall to LAG. Second matchup down here, the Seattle Surge versus the Carolina Royal Ravens. Another Game 5. Surge, though, do come out with the victory. I actually did watch this series just because I wanted to check in on Clayster and TJ Haley and the boys over there. And, of course, on Surge there with Illy, Arcides, Hook, and, of course, Rambo behind the stage. But pretty good matchup. Obviously, Game 5 was pretty insane to watch. But on to the next round, though. We have Minnesota Rocker, the Battle of Purple, if you will. I guess they battled with Ultra earlier, but the Rocker and Guerrillas, another Game 5. Victor, this one goes to the Rocker. They move on for top 4. But battling, though, is OpTic Texas versus Seattle Surge. Of course, there's always going to be a little bit of a grudge match versus former teammates, former OpTic members. Again, like I said, Illy, Hook. I mean, Arceus hasn't been there for a bit, but still. And, of course, Rambo behind the stage, coaching the Seattle boys. And this one, OpTic handled business. I mean, it was 3-1. It was a pretty close matchup. So, but OpTic pretty much, they won, right? They're pretty, not handedly, but they won pretty convincingly. But OpTic moves on for top 4. So we got FaZe, we got Ultra in the winner's side, we have OpTic, we have Rocker in the elimination bracket. But let's start with the fight for top 4. This one ends up going to OpTic. 3-1 fashion over the Rocker, sending them home, and they move on for top 3. So now we got FaZe, Ultra, OpTic, top 3. So arguably our top 3 teams in the top 3, so which works perfectly. Now, of course, we want the green wall to head towards the championship, but we have to figure out who they're going to face off against first. So this one, another battle of the Titans. Ultra versus FaZe. Ultra do end up winning this one 3-1. So only losing one map until you get to grand finals. Pretty impressive. I think I saw they didn't lose a hard point and didn't lose a, was it control? I don't remember what it was offhand, but they played absolutely insane this weekend. But FaZe does fall down to the elimination bracket finals, facing off against the rematch versus OpTic Texas. And this one, man, I wish the maps were better because just a few gunfights go a different way, and the whole, and I know it's the typical line, but it really is true. The rotations were pretty on point there, and just a couple of gunfights. If they go in the way of OpTic, OpTic would have won that one, went game 5. Who knows what would have happened. But OpTic does fall in this one. Sad to see them out, but it was a pretty good showing, right? Beating Heretics 3-0 fashion, redemption from online. They played FaZe tough. They then beat Surge 3-1. They beat Rocker 3-1. and then they play FaZe once again. So obviously they're going to go home, figure some stuff out. Obviously with a new update, we'll see how that changes everything. But we set up a rematch, so FaZe versus Ultra in the grand finals. And this one, it feels like it's always kind of this way, where the winners finals always ends up being the grand finals, and then it's usually the same team that wins. I don't know if that's by design or if that's just what they think is the best competition. I'm not sure. But FaZe do fall in this one. Ultra win 4-1. It was a best of 7, which I still don't like that that whole thing. I still think it should be the traditional double elimination bracket where, you know, the loser has to beat the winner twice in 2 best of 5s. Right? I still feel like that's the best, you know, best thing possible for the end of the tournament instead of this best of 7. I mean, it's interesting, but I still don't feel like it's the best way to do it. Now, Ultra probably would have won anyway, but still, like, there is that chance where, in this case, FaZe do have to beat them twice in order to actually win the championship. So looking at the final prizing for the event, I don't know why it seems like this, but the prize pool does look a little bit like less than normal. Like, I feel like there's not as much money in this one as there has been in recent years. I could be totally off about that, but it just doesn't really seem like there's a lot. Maybe it was just for the first event. Maybe it's going to scale up. I'm not sure. But Ultra do walk away with $150,000 prize pool for them, 100 CDL points. FaZe gets second with 90,000 with 75 points. OpTic Texas, $60,000 with 60 points. Minnesota Rocker get 4th place with 30,000 points and 45 points. 5th, 6th goes LA Gorillas and Seattle Surge, $15,000 each with 30 CDL points. And then 7th, 8th is the Carolina Royal Ravens and the Vegas Legion, both getting $7,500 along with 15 CDL points. The other teams, I'm going to forget half of them, but all the other teams, 9 through 12, don't get any CDL points and don't get any money. So that will be that going forward. But this is the look at the post-Major 1 standings, which is a bit interesting. So we have Toronto Ultra on top with a 10-1 series record with a 31-8 map count at 160 points, which is pretty incredible for them. Then a FaZe in second, 10-2 overall, 32-15 map count, 145 points. OpTic Texas in 3rd place, 7-5 series count, 26-21 map count with 100 points. And then as you go down there, I mean, then it kind of just falls off a little bit. But we have a pretty clear-cut top 3. You know, I feel like that middle kind of 4 through even 8 will move around a bunch in the next little bit. And hopefully some of those other bottom teams will figure it out. But for now, that's how our standings are going to end up looking. And also, I was going to mention this at the start of the video, but I ended up forgetting about it. But the Major 1 Challengers Championship goes over to the FaZe Black Challengers team, which is Asim, Brack. Yeah, that team. Asim, Brack, Exceed, and Kremp all get the victory over there. They end up beating the... it's not coming out, but they beat another team here that apparently doesn't exist on this page, which doesn't make sense. But either way, congrats over there to the FaZe Black boys. They win the Challengers Cup, or Challengers Champs, or I don't really know what they're calling it. But either way, congrats to them. Hopefully we'll see them at some point in the future as they continue with their careers. But that's going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit the like button down below. Comment what your thoughts were on the tournament. Besides, I didn't even mention this, all of the tech issues. Oh my goodness. Can we figure it out? Like, we're in the, I don't even know what year of the, I mean, Call of Duty Professional League in general, let alone the COD League. And we still are having all these tech issues, like event after event, it seems like. I mean, after day 1, it seemed to be relatively okay. I mean, there was, you know, hiccup every now and again, but for the most part, like, what the heck? Get it together. But as always, guys, if you're new here or just haven't yet, hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.